Friend, are you a winner in life or are you a loser? Are you on the journey towards winning or have you already lost? I guess there's no real definitive answer to this question. I guess all we have is our individual perception. If we think we're a winner, we're a winner. If we think we're a loser, we're essentially a loser. We will naturally behave and act and conduct ourselves out of that which we believe. If we believe that we've lost, we will spend our lives being a defeatist. If we believe we have the capacity and the potential to grow and develop and improve, of course, we're going to live to fight another day. Here I want to ask you a question. Does your childhood justify your attitude? Right? I want to read you a story. Two brothers grew up knowing only poverty. I don't know if you can relate. Their father was a drunk and their mother was a domestic worker. One day, their parents were both killed in a road accident. They died instantly. At age 17, the two brothers then were separated, went to care homes, that sort of thing, until years later when another family member tracked them both down for a family reunion. One of the brothers had become wealthy, owning multiple companies, happily married, strong, robust family, with a mature wife and 3 emotionally regulated, balanced children. The other family member asked him, how did your life turn out like this? He replied, what did you expect? With a childhood like mine, I was left no option but to work hard and accomplish some great things in life. I wanted to. The other brother was a depressed alcoholic. He was broke, working a dead-end job, dependent on therapists, speaking to counsellors every other week to feel better about himself, and without a general sense of direction or purpose for his life. The same family member then asked him, he said, how did your life turn out like this? He responded saying, what did you expect with a childhood like mine? He answered, what did you expect with a childhood like mine? Does your childhood justify your attitude? I want to share with you another story, if that's all right. And this story goes back around about 10 years ago. I was back then studying counselling. I was already trained as a coach. When I immersed myself into study, I'd done so at quite a late stage of life. I think I was 29, I immersed myself into full-time higher education. All right, I was a bit of a late starter. I actually had a 10-year military background, followed by a few years of sales and business development before becoming interested and really committed to studying and practicing applied psychology, which is essentially what I'm sharing with you here. Back at the start, I'd kind of picked up a couple of ideas, a few conversational skills. I'd picked up a few principles, and I think what I already had was this deep-rooted passion to make a positive difference in the lives of other people. Now, I wanted to get started somewhere. Back then, you could possibly have said I wanted to be a mental health practitioner, all right? I live in a place called Dunfermline in Scotland, and going back all those years ago, you would have a lot of people, young men and women, sometimes middle-aged men and women, who would sit around on the street corners. Sometimes they would be drunk, perhaps addicted to various chemicals, heroin, methadone. This is quite a big problem here in Scotland, by the way. And there was one young guy who I just developed a bit of a soft spot for, if you know what I mean. A young guy called Chris. He was a bit of a rascal, right? A bit of a naughty boy, but he was one of these lovable rogues. So I'd ended up connecting with Chris one day. He would stand on the street corners selling these magazines called The Big Issue, that he would get kind of some of the money back, and he would essentially just spend his money on drink and drugs. I had decided to make Chris my people project. I don't know if you can relate. Have you ever had a person project? When you try to fix someone or you try to heal someone. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't work, but we're all on an ongoing educational process, aren't we? We're all being educated all of the time. So anyway, back then, I didn't know what I know now. I was trying to coach and counsel and mentor and teach Chris, everything rolled into one. I wanted to show him the error of his ways and how it was that the lifestyle decisions he was making was absolutely devastating his life. Right? He would talk about how depressed he was, how stressed out he was, and this was the reason for his drink and his drugs. And he would also tell me about his childhood. He would say things like, my mother and father have a lot to answer for. My mother used to beat me as a child, and my father used to do this and used to do that. And I'm not undermining anything here. I really genuinely am. But it's useful just to kind of become aware that there isn't anyone in this world who decides for us how it is that we act and behave and respond, or how we choose to conduct ourselves. Our behaviours are determined by us and us alone. So I can remember I probably spent maybe 18 months. I invested quite a lot of time into this young man, Chris, where it got to the point, I had a mentor at the time. I'd gone to speak to my mentor, and I said, his name was Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, listen, I've done my best with this guy. I've tried to teach him, I've tried to counsel him, I've tried to coach him, I've tried to educate him, I've tried to encourage him, I've tried to get him to want more for his life, but nothing's changing. I don't think I'm cut out for this applied psychology stuff. And Jimmy said, Kane, are you ready to learn the lesson? And I said, oh, yes, I am. There's a lesson here. Could you not have told me this maybe a year or so ago? And he said, listen, don't waste your time on the Chris's of the world. Invest your time into the Kanes. Now, initially, I thought to myself, is this not a bit of an escapist attitude? And over time, what I appreciated was it's not an escapist attitude. It's not about undermining where people are at in life. It's about us developing the eyes to identify when people are actually ready to start investing into themselves, improving and growing, and when people aren't. Because if a person isn't yet ready to take full responsibility for themselves, we could be the most established expert in the world, but they're still not going to be ready to improve themselves or develop or grow. So if we want to invest our time wisely into other people as mental health and wellness practitioners, we want to develop an eye to recognize those people who are actually ready to grow, all right? If we're putting our time into people who aren't ready to grow, then we're going to struggle to get any results and we're certainly not going to experience any fulfillment. We'll end up burning ourselves out. All right. So what I'm saying here is, do we have an I win, I'm a winner, or I'm a loser attitude? Because some people will go through life never being willing to let go of the I'm a loser attitude, or I've already lost. All right. Until a person becomes committed to the process of personal growth, a person will not grow. There's nothing we can do about it, sadly. So I want to just present you with some further self-awareness questions here. While there are an infinite number of questions you could ask yourself for the purpose of growing in self-awareness, there are a small handful that stand out. Here I've pulled together 14. I started out with a list of 10, but I've expanded it just a little bit. What I'm going to urge you to do is, once this video is finished, go and spend 15, 20 minutes, maybe even half an hour, reflecting honestly over what the responses are to these questions, all right? Question number 1, how does your ideal you act and behave? All right, now I just want to give a little bit of context around this question. We're all working towards being a certain person. We all have this ideal version of ourselves. It's kind of like we have our present conditions in life, and then we have our ideal conditions, all right? So our present conditions are simply where we're at right here today. We're either going to be happy and content and fulfilled with our current conditions, or we're not going to be. If we're not happy and content and fulfilled with our current conditions, it's most likely because we're comparing where we're at right now at this stage of our life with a set of ideal conditions at some point in the future. All right, so this one question centers around this whole start with the end in mind idea all over again. It's about us just getting clear on a sense of direction or a vision that we have for our lives, about who it is that we could grow to become, how it is that we could improve, how we can develop, how we can mature, how we can become more effective and responsible and robust versions of ourselves. All right, this is the journey that we all must go on if we are to experience fulfillment in life. So, take a little bit of time to simply define how your ideal version of you acts and behaves and conducts himself. This now gives you something to actively start working towards today. Are you the kind of person who wants to be really stressed out and angry and down in the dumps and depressed? Or would you like to be your conditions or disorders for the rest of your life? Or would you like to be who other people say you are for the rest of your life? Or Would you be willing to define who it is that you actually want to become and then start figuring out how you can become this person? I will be helping you with this. Question number 2. Are your goals and life ambitions congruent? All right, I'll be honest with you. I kind of counselled and I've coached some very, very wealthy people over the years. And in my experience, sometimes it is the wealthiest people that are the most unfulfilled. Some people will commit their entire lives to climbing a mountain. They want to be successful. They see being successful in life as making lots of money and having that huge house, that huge home, that hugely successful career, whatever that means, only to reach the top and realize there was nothing in any of it. They don't experience any fulfillment. So what I'm saying here, or the question that I'm asking is, are your goals or life ambitions congruent? If I was to help you simplify this, we have 3 options in life. We can either commit to the process of making money. You might just want to make lots of money in your life, and if you want to, that's okay, it's entirely up to you. Or it might be the case that you really want to make a name for yourself, and again, it's entirely up to you. Or it might be the case you're the kind of person who just really wants to make a difference. Well, if you are the kind of person who really wants to make a difference, then just commit to making this difference today. There's no point in trying to make money or trying to make a name for yourself if what your main agenda and main ambition is to make a difference, because you won't feel any contentment or any fulfillment, which means you might end up feeling sadness, loneliness, isolation, all these sorts of things. So unless our decisions on a day-to-day basis are in alignment with that which we value and prioritize the most, then we're not going to find any contentment or inner peace. Right? The reason why many people end up stressed and anxious in life is because of the decisions that they make. The decisions are not in alignment with that which they value and prioritize the most. They end up not doing the things that they actually want to do in life, is what I'm saying here. So, question number 3, a bit of a simpler question. And again, just take some time once this video is over to respond honestly, right? In an undefended way. You don't have to compare your notes with anyone. This is just for your own consideration. In what areas of your life are you completely irresponsible? It's a challenging question. That's a confrontational one. But listen, if you're willing to, or if you're able to identify an area in your life that you're being completely irresponsible in, are you, completely responsible for yourself, emotionally, behaviourally? Are you still pointing fingers and blaming people for the outcomes and the results of your life? Are you really angry towards someone right now? If so, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be able to identify an area in your life that you've not taken responsibility for yet. Remember, growing, personal growth is about us growing in responsibility. We can't control what other people say or do or what they think or how they are, but we can learn to control how it is that we are, how we conduct ourselves, how we behave. Responsibility starts by us pointing our fingers in this direction, all right? This is what it is. That's what it's all about. Which of your habits that you're embracing right now cost you more than you like or more than you want to? If you have some habits in your life, perhaps some habits you've been talking about giving up for years, what are they costing you, right? Just become aware. How do your beliefs and worldviews positively serve you? I remember being associated with a young man for many years, and this young man defined himself by a term. This term is a word used to essentially define his religious, ideological perspective in life. So this guy had called himself a Christian for many years. Now, I'm not undermining anyone here, right? Don't assume that I am, but he defined himself as a Christian. Every single time that I would speak to this guy, he would be preaching at me. So, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. It's kind of like everything about my life was wrong, everything about his life was right. It was kind of like he'd picked the right team, and there was some self-righteousness to be found in this. Therefore, when I spoke to him, it's kind of like I was batting for the wrong team, whatever that meant. And the only reason I give that example here is because sometimes our beliefs, our worldviews, our ideologies, doesn't matter how right we think we are, can end up bearing a cost. If we want to evaluate the health of our beliefs and worldviews, we've got to look at the results and the outcomes of our life. All right, if we are not experiencing the results and the outcomes in our life that we want to, we've got to start looking at our worldviews and our beliefs. In what ways must you never be like your parents? It's a confrontational question, isn't it? So what we're actually asking here is, in what ways might you be a little bit more like your parents than what you would even care to imagine? All right, now the reason why I ask this question is because we all are brought into a family environment. We all have parents of some shape or form, for better or for worse. And this is our primary educational experience in life, all right? When we're brought into the world, we are looking at our parents as kind of being the ones who have it all together, the ones who have it all right. So we end up modelling them, copying them, picking up habits and traits, and this essentially just becomes our normal. But what would happen if our normal actually wasn't normal at all? Would we even know? How would we know if our normal was actually completely abnormal? All right, what I'm doing is we're kind of looking in our kind of fourth quadrant of the Johari window here, looking into the parts of our life that we might not be too aware of. In what ways must you never be like your parents? You could take this question one step further. In what ways are you perhaps more like your parents than what you ever wanted to be? So here's another way we could look at this, one idea. If you have children, I'm not sure if you do or not, you might have children at some point in the future. And if you do, in what ways must your children never be like you? How aware are you, my friend? In what ways must your children never be like you? Listen, in order for us to grow in awareness, to improve in life, we just need to understand what our perspective is, and we can sometimes have our perspective enlarged as we compare, how it is that we're living our lives to those who've gone before us, and also to those who may come after us. Do we want other people, the generations that follow us, behaving, acting and conducting themselves the way that we are acting and behaving and conducting ourselves? If the answer is yes, fantastic. If the answer is no, then we're now aware of some areas that we might want to start making some changes in today, right? For the purposes of personal growth. How might those people closest to you define you? If those closest to you were to use words to define how they experience you, what words might they use? All right? If you were just to spend a little bit of time considering how you are interpreted by others, what would this look like? Are you the kind of person that other people really want to spend time with? Or are you the kind of person that people just perhaps feel sorry for? Are you the kind of person who behaves themselves in a way that people just can't be bothered with? Are you the kind of person that brings out the best in others? Are you the kind of person that really inspires others through the way in which you communicate, the way in which you interact, the way in which you conduct yourself and live your life? Because we each get to choose. How aware are you of the thoughts that occupy your mind on a day-to-day basis? Because most people aren't, right? Most people just unconsciously go through their days beating themselves up. Oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I'm useless. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I'm that. And then end up wondering why they experience low confidence, low self-esteem, insecurity, self-doubt. Sometimes some people self-loathe. And we'll only experience self-loathing in response to the undermining thoughts that we think. All right, so how aware are you of the thoughts that occupy your mind every day? Or do they just kind of exist? Do they just happen? Do you just succumb to them? Do you just buy into them without ever challenging them? All right, how aware are you of you? Question number 12. What triggers an unhealthy emotional response in me? I'm obviously talking about you here. What triggers an emotional, unhealthy response in me personally? I hate being undermined, all right? I hate it when people speak over me, when people don't listen. I hate it when people make assumptions of me, when people judge me. It's kind of like this itch that has been with me my entire life, all right? I picked this up at some point in my childhood, perhaps with a parent who didn't listen much to me. So when I feel unlistened to, even today at this stage of my life, it still triggers an unhealthy emotional response in me. The only thing that's changed over the years is I've learned to self-regulate, right? Rather than going back maybe 15 years ago, I would have outbursts of anger, frustrated if people judged me or assumed the worst. I would get really angry. Today I can That's an interesting perspective. I can regulate myself more effectively. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I still experience anger and frustration inside, all right? But just because we experience emotion doesn't mean that we need to act out of it. So what triggers an unhealthy emotional reaction in you? All right, how aware are you of you? In what areas of your life are you not completely transparent with others? In what areas of your life are you not fully transparent with other people in? Last question, how do you like it when other people aren't completely transparent with you? Because we can all be guilty sometimes of not being completely authentic, not being completely honest or real with others, but then we take offense when other people aren't completely honest and transparent and authentic with us. Oh, the irony.